faves, how are you today? I'm so glad you're here. I actually have a little bit of an Ulta haul to share. I have some new things, a couple of new palettes. I feel like we haven't talked new palettes in a while in terms of like the high-end landscape and anything I've really been attracted to. So we got a couple of those, some skincare restocks, just some random things. So we're gonna jump in and I'll just apply whatever steps I have as part of the haul. So restock number one is the Vanicream Daily Facial Moisturizer. Also, as you can see, I'm here and I survived my kindergartner's first day of school. I'm shooting this on Monday. Rhett had his first day on Friday. They do like half the kindergartners one day, and then today they'll do the other half, and then everybody goes together on Tuesday. So he had that first full day for the full standard time that he would be there. I just found myself thinking throughout the day, like, I wonder what he's doing. I wonder if he's listening, just hoping everything was going good. And when I saw that smiling face running to me after the day was done with his little first day of kindergarten crown, like it made me want to tear up. Like I was just so happy for him. And he said he had so much fun, and I felt like the details of the day just kind of kept trickling out throughout the whole evening. The teacher he has is the same amazing teacher that the girls had during kindergarten, and also Mrs. Webb was the one who requested that basic eye makeup for grown-ups video that I did, I think it was last year. So we love Mrs. Webb, and I still feel a little bit emotional about the fact that this whole thing is going on like he's a kindergartner. But I'm excited too, because I just feel like the enthusiasm is there, and I think it's going to be a fun year. Anyways, like I was saying, I replenished my Vanicream Daily Facial Moisturizer. So I just kind of wanted to get back to some staple products, because while a lot of the time this summer I've been using this Vanicream, the one with the sunscreen included, I like it, but it is rather thick. It's funny what a difference there is between these two, and I just don't always want that texture underneath. And then sometimes I was using this Hydra Prime from ABH with the SPF 50 in it, and I like both of those things, but I'd fully run out of this. I think I've emptied 2 tubes of this already, and I just really do love the texture of it. It's not too thick, but it just feels perfect under makeup. And I would say I'm dealing with some dry skin on occasion now, but in my days recently using this, I'm like, somehow this is so perfect, and it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm putting something really rich on. And if you're not familiar with Vanicream, it is like the sensitive skincare brand. It's free of dyes, fragrance, masking fragrance, lanolin, parabens, formaldehyde releasers, accepted by the National Eczema Association. If you are dealing with eczema on your face, it's not going to make matters worse. I love the cleanser. I use the cleanser every night. I know some of you have told me, and I am meaning to try the vitamin C serum that they make, but Vanicream's dope. I love it. And then I also repurchased this, my Supergoop Every Single Face Watery Lotion. This has the SPF 50 in it. I've emptied probably 2 of these also, and then just had a little gap where I was using a Bare Minerals SPF, and then basically drained that one and started using some other things. But gosh, I love how thin this is. This is such a good sunscreen for under makeup. Again, you want the moisture, but you don't want textures that feel super thick or like they're interfering in any way with the application. So yeah, recently skincare wise, I've given some other things a shot, but those are some products that I really wanted to get back to. Another thing I got from Ulta, this is from Essence. Essence is doing a glowy primer, and I felt the need to try it. It's called Magic Filter Glow Booster. It's in a little glass bottle. It's not a full fluid ounce, it's 0.47 fluid ounces. I got the shade 10 Light, and it says on the sticker, Healthy Glow. So I'm gonna pop some of this on a full pump as my primer. You know, I'm really into the glowy primers. I like trying different ones, and it just seems like no two are exactly alike. Look at this. Look at how this glow is bouncing off. I feel like one pump is probably more than I need. I'm gonna take good old Profusion buffing brush. Let's work this into the skin. It'll knock it down a little bit as it blends in, but you can still see quite a highlighter-ish glow out of this, don't you think? Does anybody else feel like I kind of just smeared a not so diluted liquid highlight all over my skin? It's really bouncing off. And I didn't feel like the skin tone of this was too light, but it's not giving a lot of skin tone. You know how Rimmel Multitasker and e.l.f. Halo Glow, some of those different ones, you put them on and you really can tell that there's kind of a skin tone base that glow is mixing in with, and here it kind of feels like pure highlighter. I am extremely glowy and not really covered in any way. Initial reaction, I'm not wowed, but it's still something I could get use out of. Next up, I got a very intriguing sponge. This is from Real Techniques. This is their new Makeup Saver sponge, and it says absorbs 90% less makeup. It says that's as a result of a 30-day lab test, less than 10% of water-based makeup was absorbed. So they say it's got a fingerprint technology. It can be squished. It's not super solid. I was thinking it was going to be very solid, but there's some give to that, but that's fingerprint technology, they say. I was thinking that was more of a gripping thing, but actually they're making it seem like mimics finger application for a natural skin-like finish, streak-free, so you're going to actually apply that. They also say that you're going to use this dry. It's got a decent squish to it, but definitely just feels like a sponge that has not been dampened yet. They say with the different angles, the sponge bounce you love in a shape that reaches large and targeted areas. They say it's easy to clean. Simply swipe the film side with a damp cloth after each use. The whole diagram is pointing to this side as being what's going to apply product. So yeah, I get that texture is not going to really take anything in. Use dry. Fingerprint technology. Can you see like the grooves that actually might mimic like the pattern in a fingerprint if you looked up close? I'm a little scared. I mean, I've had these products on hand for a few days, but I've held off because I thought, well, let's use this one together. It's so strange because my instinct would be to bop in from that side, but it's definitely apparent that this is the side that has the technology to not absorb the makeup as much and whatever. So I'm pulling out L'Oreal True Match. I don't think this one's going to be too tricky to blend in. I have the shade N4 Neutral Light Medium. I'd repurchased a little deeper shade in this. When was that? Several months ago. And I'm just going to dab her around. Yeah, I had decided to try True Match again during the Shelby Ann drugstore makeup routine craze. I'm so scared. This just feels so odd, but I'm going to take this fingertip technology. Can you like hear the sound of it? Like I'm really tapping my skin. Remember the like little floppy silicone blenders? It kind of makes me think of that type of experience, you know? You're just using some more solid product when you're used to busting out a brush or at least a dampened sponge, a nice squishy dampened sponge. But I have to admit, I'm seeing blending. It's feeling a little strange as I get around the ear and the jaw. It's like, okay, am I continuing to swipe this down here? It does a stipple pretty well, like dab, 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 dab. It doesn't even look like product has really touched it. It's interesting. I kind of feel like I'm slapping my skin. Now, what this should be doing is really maintaining the coverage on my skin, because if it's not going in here, it's staying on here. Hello, Bisky. But I'm just wondering, like, is it getting worked in well enough? Oh, around the nose, I don't have it there. I don't feel streaky whatsoever. Looking more glowy than True Match would typically leave me because we've got that underneath. But I don't know, guys. It did the job. It blended everything in. I'm sitting here with a sponge that, like, you could tell around here, like, parts of it that touched my skin. I'm sure those little edges absorbed something, but this is just not an absorbent surface, so it's not going to take a bunch of makeup in. What do you think about this, guys? Did a pretty decent job. I would like to see it blend some concealer. I don't have a new concealer, but we're going to just use e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer in Light Peach. A little bit there. I'm just going to put it on where I usually would, and we'll see if the sponge can tackle like the little crevices. Has anyone else noticed on TikTok that Bama Rush is underway? Last year I did do a makeup look for if I went through Rush again, like this is what I do for makeup. So feel free to refer to that. I'm using the end of the sponge. That pointed tip really is able to get in here. Dabbing, dabbing. Feel like I got more on this side. Really fascinating sponge. I'm not 100% blended over here, but I'm just kind of bouncing around. I don't love it for around the nose. Like I'm definitely having to get off of that little special surface a bit. This is where if you're using a larger sponge, you definitely benefit from that side, the side curving out so it can go in there and reach. So I am just flipping it because otherwise I really wouldn't be able to get in there. But yeah, I feel like things look pretty good. I have to admit the sponge did its job. I didn't really go down to this surface, which I could have, but it didn't even really feel necessary just the way I'm holding it, and I kind of like the point being there. Yeah, it actually did blend things in. You kind of get off the surface, like I said, when you need to get into a small pinpointed area. But like I said, I have a couple of new palettes and lip stuff. Oh, let's go ahead and share the lotion I got. I found the Lotus Water from Tree Hut. I had smelled this somewhere in a scrub, and I really didn't need any scrubs, but I loved the scent. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. It says Lotus Water Blue Agave. This is the Whipped Shea Body Butter. It smells so good, and it smells like something I've smelled in the past, but I can't quite put my finger on it. But it's really fresh, really clean, but there's some subtle tropical element in this. And at Ulta, they had it in all forms. You could get a scrub in this, you could get the body butter, I think they had like shave oil, straight up body wash, all kinds of things. But this was what I really wanted because I thought it might smell good alongside some of the different body mists that I have. And it's like, yeah, you want a little bit of that fragrance, just wear it as lotion that day. And I know I like the texture of the Tree Hut whipped body butters. They're kind of light. They definitely give you moisture that's not just going to immediately be sucked into your dry skin. You go on to feel it, but it's still pretty light. So that was another thing I got. But like I said, I'm going to finish my complexion, then we'll get to these palettes. Okay, guys, I applied some powder steps, so let me run through that. I did my Infallible Blurfection today. Oops, I need to scoot my mirror back so it's not intruding. This is the pink light shade, so that's on under eye and T-zone for the brightness. I used the Maybelline Superstay Hybrid Powder Foundation 128. That's pretty much all over the rest of my face because I was just feeling pretty juicy. I think my skin definitely felt more tacky after using this sponge because when you think of it, the sponge is absorbing less product, more is staying on my skin, and I was feeling that. I decided to go with powder steps for the rest of my complexion. I used my L'Oreal Infallible bronzer in medium. Can you tell the shade on that? It's just a pretty standard bronzer. For blush, I use this e.l.f. Primer Infused Blush. The shade is Always Rosy, so just a natural pink. And then I found my Precious Petals highlighter from Wet n Wild, and I actually took my inability to find this in a recent video as my cue to declutter my highlighter drawer. I got rid of a lot of things that just weren't really relevant anymore that I was holding on to for I'm not sure exactly what reason. It wasn't even products I was particularly sentimental about or loving that much. I just had a bunch of highlighters that could go, and this one fortunately was found. I did my brows. I used my Morphe products today, that Nano Brow Pencil. Over the weekend, by the way, we officially ran out of the CoverGirl Clean Fresh Nano Brow Pencil, so that's in my empties bin. So this is the Morphe Nano Pencil in Java, and then I used their Micromanager Gripping Brow Gel on top, Wet n Wild Mega Last Eye Primer. And now let's talk about the two different palettes that I got. First one, Urban Decay has some new palettes out. They're called Naked Shaped Multitasking Palette. It has creams and powders in here. This one doesn't even say on here what shade I got, but I got the warm one. I remember choosing that. It's actually a slide up lid, which feels odd. They avoided giving any sort of mirror here, and I don't love that. The creams are in the middle. I used this yesterday. I thought the tones looked really pretty, just seeing it online, and I used like a couple of these shades as a base, sort of. The creams seem creamy enough. They feel kind of like a Patrick Ta cream that's included in those palettes. I don't know if the multitasking could be thought of as using some of this as a face contour. I don't know that I'd really feel the need to go there with it, but it's a little concerning there's no cover over those creams. They're directly placed in the middle of the palette. There's nothing protecting them from the potential fallout that could surround. There's nothing like on the inside of the lid that covers that specifically. It's just a little core of creams. And then we've got mattes here. These are mattes and these are mattes. And I had a good time working with those mattes. What I was finding was a lot of these shimmers are very glazy. There's some, like that one on my middle finger there is a really pure, rich feeling shimmer. The one beside it as well, both feel like more traditional shimmers. But then there's a couple in here, like this big shade here that's more of a glaze, this taupey color right over there. It's got a little softness, but it was applying super sheer, and then more of a traditional shimmer with that cocoa color there, that beautiful brown. I really do like that. So a couple shimmers that as I applied them on the eyes, I was thinking, okay, this is going to take a lot of building, or maybe it needs to cling directly upon one of these shades like a base. This creamy color here could be a nice neutralizing base potentially for an eye look, and would certainly give some of those shimmers something to stick to. I use both of these as sort of a base for my look. So this needs some more testing. I'm not immediately like wowed. There are some concerning elements, like I said, with the inclusion of creams. I think you also need to include something thoughtful that's going to keep those covered up and protected. And there's also just that question of when the palettes, you know, just out and open to the air, those are always having the opportunity to start drying out, and there's just nothing covering them. But again, it's called Naked Shaped, and I'm going to pull up the other option on here. There's two of them. This is the warm one, and there is kind of a neat like texture. It actually is kind of wavy on the top to feel it. They do say it's the ultimate versatility because you've got cream, matte, shimmer, and glimmer topper eyeshadows. So that would be, you know, the couple of those that I said were more sheer. The other one available is a very cool toned option. I feel like even getting the warm, it's not as warm as some warm palettes could be. I'm really seeing it most maybe in these couple of browns and this shade here in the corner. But I just tend to gravitate a little more toward those tones. So we'll keep playing with that. And then the other palette that I got that I am a little more enthusiastic about is from Tarte, and they did a Maneater After Dark Volume 2. So they kept the same exterior as the other After Dark palette, and the shades in here, they're basic, they're actually pretty standard for Tarte's way of doing things, I feel, but oh my gosh, am I attracted to this kind of color spread. And I've been bouncing around everything. I've used it for a couple days now, a couple of different looks. I've gone everywhere in this palette. I haven't quite used the extent of all the shimmers, but I feel like I've used tons of the mattes, and I've had such a good time with this, really. It's a big palette. It's a 24 shade palette, but I like the richness and depth. I love what's going on down in this corner. I thought today I might play with popping in some of this color here. It looks really mauve on my finger. It looks a little more lilac in the pan. But yeah, let's jump in and use this one today. I'm going to begin going a little more pinky with it. I'm going to use this shade called Wild at Heart right here. I guess I was just glad to be excited for the release of a new palette. I had actually had this in my cart for a little while and then realized I had a few other needs at Ulta, the skincare things, and so that's when I finally decided to place the order. But has anybody else tried this one? What do you think? Like I said, it's not super uncommon. It's the looks I have turned out give a very fall vibe, which was probably the intention of this palette, I guess. Here I am just taking that pinky tone matte. I'm going to go back and add more. The texture of the shadows is really nice, kind of what you're used to probably from Tarte. They kick up a little bit of powder, but not an annoying amount. And we can just blend this up and sheer it out towards the brow. And then I really like the color that's right above it called Desire. This is a nice shade to sort of work on the edge of your looks. There are several that are like that for me in this palette that just make the blending seem so flawless and easy. Sometimes with these larger palettes, I feel like brands just kind of get haphazard with it, and you think like, oh, they just threw in a bunch of light shades, or things don't really make logical sense the way it was done. But this one really makes sense to me. I'm like, okay, we've got easy gradients of color, even though the placement, I guess it goes generally light to dark, but you know, things could be a little spotty as to how you put them together. You can tell that there's those mid-tones that are more on the light side, and they just make your blending so smooth. So I've got that blended, and then I could go shimmery up toward the brow. I could go matte. I'm going to take this one right here called Enamored. It's your closest thing to a white, and just use that to spotlight under my brow a bit. They've also got a more buttery colored matte right down here called Feline Myself. Now I'm going to go a little bit deeper in my crease. I'm going to go to Nightfall right here. It's got a gentle sheen. It might be what we call a satin right here. I'm going to go to that, just dip in gently, and I'm going to work this into the outer part of my crease, still with the same brush I've been using. See that? Things immediately became more rosy with this look once I worked that in. I'm ready for some depth on the outer lid because I really want it to be nice and dark to contrast with this shade here that I plan to use. So I'm going to go down to the bottom corner here. This is called Nocturnal. It's a really rich and pretty plummy shade. So I'm going to dab into that with my Morphe M303. And we're dabbing that on the outer part of the lid and helping it kind of hit the crease as well. As we know, this brush naturally wants to do that. Got a little fluff, but let's cover from about mid-lid to the outside, starting where you want the most depth. So I'm definitely first placing my brush on the outside, letting it come inward a little bit, and definitely letting it reach the crease. I love how there's really no fallout being generated by this dark shade, but it's plenty pigmented. I feel like lately with some different things I've tried, brands must be being kind of mindful about the texture of their dark shadows and just making them something that's not going to like blow up in your face with too much pigment. Next up, I'm taking my Profusion small pointed brush and I'm gonna use that first with nothing on it and just see how that helps blend that dark shade around. I feel like I got into my own little world there and I added just a little bit more to the depths of the crease. So like just really targeting that with that brush. I'm loving the tone and that looks really pretty working into this mauve-y color called Nightfall that we used. I like how this palette can produce kind of a classic warm look, basic neutral, or something a little bit plummy mauve. So that's that, and then I want to see how the shade Hot in Here picks up. It's getting hot in here. That's a song I associate with my college move-in. That song was huge at that time. Nelly was huge. Patting it on inner lid. And now Bama Rush is underway. Always into that. Is Kylan's sister Izzy going to get into a sorority? Who knows? It's giving a soft mauve shimmer. For some reason, it's pops off in this palette. When you see the palette, your eye goes there, does it not? But it's not quite as bright as it might appear. Once you get it on your eyes, like it's pigmented, it's fully there, but it's giving soft mauve. I like it. And I'm not seeing a lot of fallout on my cheeks from that. I wonder what it would do if I did dab on with my finger. Oh, okay. I might like the finger application for the lid there, but it's actually looking really pretty too as it blends and kind of merges with the crease above with the brush application, but that's pretty with a finger swipe. Really pretty. You might be curious about the textures of some of these other shimmers. Ooh, that one feels like a creamy almost right down there. That copper, that is a bold metallic. What about this copper? A little more rosiness in that one called Sundown. Charming, light shimmer. We've got straight up gold in here. Oh my gosh. Just literally fell on the ground. I tripped over my light. Fortunately, I didn't take the light with me. I had to take some stuff off my memory card and go around to the back of the camera, but the metallics in this palette are intensely foiled. My goodness, those are shiny. But there's some other things, like there's this one called Heated. Oh, that's gorgeous. That is a beautiful kind of rose gold, but it's popping off in a more intense way than you'd expect. Animal Instinct, Satin, that is a smoky mauve right there. That's very unique. And then I enjoyed using Moody the other day, like a rich brown hint of shimmer. There's some fun things happening in here. I'm going to finish my eye. The last thing I have to talk about is a lip. So I'll finish up the eye and be back for that. So I'm trying to branch out into some shadow sticks that I don't use as much. This one is from Laura Mercier. It's the Caviar Stick in Plum. This is a really rich, deep plum color. I went across the upper lash line there. I have a little bit of this on the outer lower lash line. And then all throughout the lower lash line, I used Pony from Heart Candy. So this is more of a kind of taupey. There's maybe a splash of mauve in that shade, but I love those Hard Candy shadow sticks. And then for my mascara, I use my Too Faced Ribbon Wrapped on upper and lower lashes because that's a tubing mascara. And then my last thing here, I got a couple things. Technically, they would be for cheeks as well, but a couple of other shades of the e.l.f. stains. These are called Sheer For It. They're basically like Benetint dupes. And I had first purchased a couple shades that I turned out to really love. I got the pink one called Pink Positive. Sensitive, and I got Left on Red, which would be your classic Benetint red. And I really wanted to try the Plum. It's called Plums Up. And I also got Cherry Cola. So I thought I might do one of these on the lips today. I'm going to do the Plum. I love the packaging. It's like a little funnel there, basically. So any liquid that's coming off of this applicator is going back in, and you feel like it's kind of getting back down in the tube. Swiping on that plummy shade. Oh, I love it. Look how great that is just on its own. Ooh, I love that color. I was suspecting this would be like the new raspberry shade from Benetint, and this Cherry Cola might be like dark cherry. So I'm gonna do a couple swatches here and then I'll report back. These are swatches that I put on there, and then I just kind of sheared them a little bit with my finger. The top swatches are e.l.f., the bottom swatches are Benefit. So there's the Plum from e.l.f., and then that's raspberry from Benetint, and I feel like there's a little more purple actually in the tone of this and a bit more red in the tone from e.l.f. And then this is the Cherry Cola one, which comes off extremely brownish, like especially with the first dot of liquid product. I'm thinking, oh, lots of brown. And then that is the dark cherry color from Benefit. A little less brown, a little more plum in that. So these aren't dead-on dupes for one another, which kind of makes me happy since I own both. I don't need them to be total dupes. But a big reason why I got these is that I love the packaging design. I like the staying power. I was just so happy with my first two that I wanted to kind of expand what I had there. I want to go on top with a little shine. Let's use the e.l.f. Glow Reviver Melting Lip Balm in Yummy Gummy. I feel like it'd coordinate nicely. Ooh, yeah, love that. And really enjoying the way that looks with the eye too. So yeah, friends, that's my little kind of get ready with me and haul today, featuring some new stuff that I got from Ulta. What are the favorites? Of course, those skincare restocks are total loves. Love the Vanity Cream, love the Super Goop Every Single Face. This stuff is awesome. I can't describe how much I love that scent of the Lotus Water Tree Hut. This, I probably could have passed on this, honestly. The Magic Filter from Essence is just so glowy, and I'm not getting that vibe of like skin tone and glow mixed. It just feels like a straight highlighter to me, at least in this shade. This, a little questionable. I'm not sure how much I'm really going to want to reach for this, to be honest. Like, it applied things well. It didn't absorb product. If that's a real concern for you, if that's a pet peeve of yours, maybe this is something you want to go for. But at the same time, it actually made my skin feel extra tacky because hardly anything was being absorbed into my sponge. Loving the After Dark Volume 2. This, so far, I've enjoyed every look I've done. And I'm liking these from e.l.f. too. This was a pretty successful haul, you guys. So thank you so much for taking time to watch, and I will see you all again very soon. I love you. Bye.